No, I'm kind of hoping that even if Blues takes this one, we'll be able to see the rest of the other game today. Because just more games is better games, right? Okay, we are on into round number 4 of our year-end FFA tournament. I'm alone this time. It's all scary. I don't like it. We've got high power price, high food price, high fuel price, high glass price, and high electronics price. But unfortunately, no real usable carbon. So despite the excellent, potentially, scavenger market, we are unlikely to see any of them in this game. Pops Your Socks and Steph getting down really fast this game. They absolutely wanted those iron locations, it seems. But with so much iron on the map, I guess it's really the silicon that they're after. They wanted to be close to it. We do not have a lot of silicon going on this map. Just, like, I think 3 mediums total. And then a low. No, and there are nukes this game. I'm just saying, there are nukes this game. With such limited access to silicon, 4 nukes pretty much knock silicon off the map. And I'll tell you, if I were in this game, that's just what I would do right from the start. Just be like, alright, I know my goal. I'm going to ruin this game for everybody. And frankly, GameSlayer is in a position as a scientist where he could potentially use that to his advantage. Blues is going to end up in the dry ice as the robot. Can't disagree with that on a map that is also so short on carbon. Only 2 low carbons available this time. So it's going to be very nice for him to have easy access to those solar condensers. GameSlayer not too far away should be able to use the dry ice as well, but not quite as easily as Blues, of course, with his simple adjacency. So everybody making sure to get their fingers in the silicon pot quickly, it seems. Except for, interestingly, who is out? Let's see. I think it's just GameSlayer, but he's going to be okay with that. As a scientist, he can potentially try and move into slant drilling. Likely to be a valuable pat in this game. We'll just have to see how things go. Pops Your Socks. With this water pump turned off, that's definitely questionable to me. Power is expensive, but water is still worth a fair amount of cash. You're getting 600 every shipment of this water right now. With water continuing to go up in price, there isn't a huge amount of pressure on that market. Once again, lots of robots available here. But it is definitely kind of an odd situation in this game to have that water turned off. I mean, a lot of that is just going to be responding to this power price. Once again, robots, once again, they're shipping pretty strong distances. You can see Blues is paying like 0.8, maybe even point up to 1 a second in freighters at the moment. If we scoot on over to him, yeah, 5 freighters in the air. That is a lot of power down the drain. So somebody is going to have to move into that power quickly. But unfortunately for Pops Your Socks and Steph, they locked themselves out of making money from this power market. They just completely ruined their opportunity to do that by founding so early. Blues, once again, is the only one really positioned to remotely make power from this, or make money from potential power anytime soon. Regardless, everybody needs to be getting into power swiftly, because power's up above $200 a second. Pops Your Socks headed into an electronic factory. I don't know if that's the right idea. Would have liked to see another solar panel come down, I think. Blues rotating out of his glass kilns. That's just leaving a couple unused tiles and a couple of claims free. What is he going to end up doing with those? High aluminum tile auction, 5,000. That is all the way across the map. I mean, you literally drop a solar panel on that and then hope it doesn't lose you too much money. Pops Your Socks, what are we seeing out of that? That is going to be an aluminum mine. I don't know if that's the kind of thing I can agree with. Aluminum's a bit pricey at the moment, but look at this ridiculous distance that we're talking about on this aluminum mine. That is absolutely insane. Not sustainable, I would have to say, is that aluminum mine. Well, everybody's just going to keep leaking power further and further into debt, it seems, for the most part. Pops Your Socks has some amount established. GameSlayer does have his wind turbines, which are helping him out a bit, but wind turbines not flooding the market all that effectively. They are just kind of keeping a small, steady stream of debt payment coming in for GameSlayer. Oh, circuit overload's going to bounce. That, I do believe, came from Pops Your Socks. That is going to let GameSlayer get to kind of pick and choose who he would like to attack and shut down. Pops Your Socks looking a bit vulnerable over there. He does have the Goon Squad in place. Blues also with the Goon Squad on one of his panels. Everybody finally moving into him. Nobody's managed to dip down to C just yet, although Blues is going to be our closest after that interest tick, sitting on about 80,000 of debt. And I'm just a little worried about his freighters. He did need to shut this off, I think. Yep. Elemental Quarry is turned off. The water is not. Water continuing to stay valuable, but as you can see, power to water, it's pretty darn close. So Blues is basically just turning debt into cash and has managed to fall to C at this point. Gameslayer actually, interestingly enough, in our best position when it comes to debt this game, having to pay fuel instead of power for his freighters, and frankly, not having any freighters running, both kind of help to make sure you're not gaining too much debt, despite those rather ridiculous power prices. Would like to see this Circuit Overload land on something, would like to see the Mutiny potentially land on something as well. Worth pointing out that the geotherms are mostly going ignored this game. Just definitely something you gotta pay attention to. So, Gameslayer gets hit by Pops Your Socks. Gameslayer then in return hits Steph on his panels and his steel mill, so those are going to be overloaded for quite some time. It does look like the overload potentially bounced in a bit of an awkward fashion here. Maybe not landing on this steel mill. Geothermal auction, somebody's got to take this. Blues panels are keeping him in things quite nicely. It looks like nobody's quite set to fall out to debt just yet, although Steph definitely not going to be happy about that overload on his panels right now. Going to be causing him a bit of a problem. 12,000 for the geotherm. Likely worth it for Blues. Gameslayer already picking up teleportation as his first patent. Now he's after financial instruments, anticipating debt problems for his opponents with this high power price. He's also gone ahead and dropped a spy onto Blues solar panels, so you can see the double goon that already exists there. And man, all of this combined with the interesting situation of Silicon, the high glass price with warehouses on the board, have made for a really awkward start to this game. Patent Lab gets taken away, but not before it manages to finish financial instruments. Slant Drilling is slated next for Gameslayer. We'll see if he can manage to get to that before it gets stolen away from him again. Already has mutinies stored up in case Pops Your Socks continues with this aggression. That is one thing we've seen out of Pops Your Socks this game that we don't see out of all of our players, is this consistent pressure coming down all the time. And Pops Your Socks with his own patent lab is already headed for carbon scrubbing. And this overload has really been painful for Gameslayer. Not enough goon squads available for him this game, it would seem. Just making things a little bit difficult in sea levels of debt for that interest tick. And oh man, that really hurts. That's an extra about 8,500 debt he got for being in C instead of B, and he was just on that line too. That has got to hurt. Manages to push up to HQ4, and he does have some potentially strong patents available, especially with Steph falling out so hard when it comes to this power price and all these overloads that have been landing on him. I really hope for Gameslayer's sake that these are solar panels, and unfortunately they are not. We're going to see reactors out of him. Power is up at 317, guys. You just got to follow the Blues path to superconductor and you would be all right this game, but instead, once again, everybody's just kind of falling out with all these circuit overloads landing. Nobody has secured strong power for themselves to truly take advantage of this, and I think this superconductor is going to be absolutely destructive to this game. Almost 3,000 a second alone for power for Blues right now, guys. You can't be letting this happen. Stop fighting with each other. You gotta fight the guy who's winning. Oh man, this is driving me insane. I don't want to see another game go down like this. Not with the geotherm, not with the double solar. Double geotherm, double solar panel once again for Blues. Oh man, I don't know if I can take it. I don't know if I can take it. Like, the reactor's coming down, the glass kiln's running. Power was so expensive, and man, it's gonna get killed so fast while Blues is busy just murdering every last opponent he has. Moving into Pops Your Socks first makes plenty of sense. He's already HQ5. Just get him knocked on out of this game before he can defend himself, and Blues might be able to take another or even a whole game off of this ridiculous power play. I don't know how much power is going to be able to sustain itself through the sheer amount that he's flooding it. But that is a subsidiary on over to Blues already. And remember, if he takes this, he locks down the whole thing. Nobody else can catch him if he finishes this game. Gameslayer's really needing this win. Absolutely, in order to stay in it himself. All right. I don't even know what to say from here. Steph's in D levels of debt once again. $150,000 of it. Gameslayer's trying to take those solar panels away, but unfortunately he's taking solar panels away from the weak player, not the strong one. Instead of getting aggressive against these undefended geotherms, taking away the solar panels is not what you're going to be looking for, unfortunately. EMP does come down on Blues, but of course only hits one panel of his important tiles. Everything else is really doing nothing, let's be honest. It's just not valuable. And during the night, the solar panel doesn't have much use anyway, so I don't know how much that EMP is going to actually do. And Blues, man, he's forced stock buying out of all of his opponents. Now, I do have to wonder, what does he do from here? He's still got power money that's going to come in for a little while, especially once day hits. He's going to be okay to go ahead and finish off that market. But Gameslayer, he's not out of it entirely just yet. Gameslayer has an A rating. He's not leaking power anymore, as I do believe he managed to pick up Cold Fusion. So that's definitely a really big deal. But Blues, he's still already HQ5. He has the option to do whatever he wants. He has these solar condensers that we talked about earlier being so crucial this game. The fact that he was in dry ice. And this gives him late game markets to move into. He's going to collect that carbon. He's going to be able to get into chems. He's going to be able to get into electronics. He's going to be able to eventually move off-world, off all this production. Off-worlds are looking actually rather reasonable this game. On-world prices are still adequate for now, but as those start coming down, these off-worlds could become very, very valuable to have. And Gameslayer actually choosing to move into a little bit of Steph's stock. That's very interesting. It's very cheap right now. It's a nice boost to his own price. But I don't know if it's a game-winning level of play at the moment. Slant drilling really working quite well in Gameslayer's favor, but unfortunately, fuel is just not valuable. Food is going to be decent. This teleportation food could definitely have some use. Might have liked to see, frankly, carbon. Like, this is just the wrong carbon tile to take for Gameslayer, unfortunately. This was a flat-out mistake, because this carbon is just in a crater. It has no adjacency at all. Whereas this carbon, yeah, it's a little further away, but you've got teleportation. And you can easily put down electronics, chemicals, or just carbon quarries here, gather all of it up, and knock these down. That was just a huge mistake out of Gameslayer, I would say. Not allowing himself the potential of that adjacency carbon. Instead, he's got like 4 of these water tiles up here. And just imagine with me for a moment that he's getting 3 times as much carbon, and he has 1 less reactor to pay for it. I mean, that could be a much better position for Gameslayer to move forward with. Right now, though, Blues, it is nighttime, so the condensers aren't doing much, but as you can see, it doesn't really matter, because Gameslayer's just sitting there, not pulling in enough carbon to knock this price down. And then, of course, our knocked out player, no, he never actually got to carbon scrubbing. Blues did manage to get carbon scrubbing for himself, has taken that option away from his opponents, and so these chem labs are actually very, very strong right now. 200 apiece about on those chem labs, especially with their adjacency to the solar condensers. Interestingly enough, no longer needing carbon from the condenser, but still getting extra adjacency bonuses from it. It's just, you know, it's just the way robots work. They're cheaters. It's fine. We don't need to worry about it. Pretty ridiculous game. Pretty ridiculous. I've been mostly ignoring Steph because Steph is just so deep in debt that interest will eventually knock him out of the game. I am curious if we're going to see these players look to stockpile a significant amount of money and not move into an off-world. Gameslayer has elected for the off-world, but I could see an argument for stockpiling, waiting for interest to finally finish Steph off very, very soon, and then going for the kill on him just to get that extra ridiculous stock boost. GameSlayer has decided to get aggressive against Blues. This is a good idea, I think. He's not really going to get the kill. He's not after the kill. GameSlayer's not quite that insane, because he still needs 200,000 to do it from here. But what it will do is make Blues respond. Optimization Center for 12,000. That is just nothing, but both players have to fear debt so much that Blues gets that fantastic Optimization Center for so little. I mean, look, it costs $12,000 just to build an Optimization Center right now anyway. Oh, that's a steal right there is what that is on that Optimization Center. But what GameSlayer is doing is he's saying, I am going to make you invest in yourself so you don't have that money to play with. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be, this is coming way too late because GameSlayer can't actually threaten the kill right now. He's moving into an Offworld, but Blues already has the Offworld for himself. Blues has been making plenty of food. This is going to be a ridiculous amount of money coming in from this Offworld. 56,000 to launch is absolutely fantastic. 56,000 a launch. Think about how much money that is. That's ridiculous. 56,000 every single minute. Now, obviously, that's going to fluctuate a bit, but with this Optimization Center, Blues that he isn't using just yet, he can make electronics effectively. He can make food effectively and make sure that his Offworld stays very profitable. He can pull in more carbon if he would like to once these condensers stop getting frozen out. I think I would have liked to see a nuke on this elemental quarry, maybe, unless Blues has been hitting that cooldown every time on mutinies and such. Oh, well, GameSlayer has a nuke himself right now. A little bit late to be using that, unfortunately, but it is potentially nice to have. Regardless, I'm just looking at this situation. GameSlayer's done a good job pulling in cash moving forward. I mean, that's the scientist for you, right? He's been sitting on these farms for a very long time. Those have been doing very nicely for him. He's had some strong patents locked up. A lot of strong patents locked up. He's kind of resistant to steel fluctuations, so I might like to see him move out of these steel mills if he can find something else to be in. Glass, in particular, being a potential nice option for GameSlayer moving forward. Oh, relying on just a hologram, though. GameSlayer gets his Offworld stolen away immediately from Blues as it finishes. But Blues can't afford to take it again. GameSlayer already sitting on another mutiny. Unfortunately for him, though, Blues is the one that managed to pick up thinking machines. So he can't really get aggressive in return. Where is the nuke? GameSlayer trying to nuke out some water. It looks like that's not going to work out. Gets turned around and goodbye, carbon. Sorry, GameSlayer. That is not going to work out for you. I think that actually just about locks up the game for Blues. You can see Blues has a significant amount of cash. GameSlayer, even with the large amount of stock he's managed to pick up, without access to this carbon market, without being able to get an edge, get ahead anywhere, he's just using these mutinies defensively. Things are looking really, really difficult for him to move forward this game. And Blues finally feels comfortable getting aggressive against GameSlayer. Steph is still just sitting there trying not to die to debt. That's been his whole goal this game. It's been very, very difficult for him. You guys gotta respect the power. You just gotta. It is worth noting that with nanotech, GameSlayer moved out of his wind turbines and into solar panels. Those solar panels are still going to make plenty of power. Even though these are great wind turbine locations, they're still like great solar panel locations because they're on high elevation. That's still pretty good. I think there is a very high elevation as well, technically. Yeah, you can see very high elevation like in this spot over here. Probably these are very high and such. But high elevation is still going to be pretty solid. And of course, solar panels at a base level do make plenty of power on their own. So that is kind of nice to see. Steph getting aggressive against GameSlayer. GameSlayer's not going to want to see that. It just makes it easier for Blues to finish things off. Steph says can't do anything. GG. He is just going to peace on out of here. That's an AI from here on out. Which was no, I don't believe AI was the one to actually make the purchase. Shouldn't matter too much. The AI is not going to be able to accomplish very much this game. He's just kind of sitting there as a potential stock boost. The black market is open for business. Yeah, no Offworld ever being planted. GameSlayer would have liked to see that. GameSlayer would have really liked to see Steph move into an Offworld, so GameSlayer could take him over and have a decent subsidiary ready to go of course, clearing that debt book when he gets taken over. Unfortunately, that just never happened for GameSlayer. Blue's sitting on all the cash. Blue's sitting on a lot of stock. Blue's still sitting on that subsidiary. Never a lot of money from the subsidiary. It hasn't been able to actually do a whole lot this game, but it's still just been a nice stock boost available to him. And, ooh, GameSlayer getting aggressive, it looks like, with that mutiny. Unfortunately, Thinking Machines is going to cut that time down. And Blues is the one that actually ends up finishing off Steph. That's going to give him 2 more claims, much more of a stock boost, and still he has the lead in cash. Things are not looking good for GameSlayer, I gotta say. Alright, extra claim, going to GameSlayer. Not sure it's going to matter at all. 16,000, still in C levels of debt. Blue's still on no debt. Gotta pay attention to that. Those geotherms have been doing a nice job for him, keeping him nice and healthy this game. EMP lands onto the Offworld. I don't think there's much point in talking about things from here. Unfortunately, this is kind of that stage where you've just got realistically no options.
Successful Offworld shipment advanced our production for the profits.
Well, GameSlayer, you got one aspect of that right. Steel was fine. I think Scientific could have worked out very, very well for GameSlayer if he had played it out better. I think we saw massive mistakes from everybody that game, kind of including Blues. Even Blues was just late to power. Nobody was respecting that resource these past few games. That is such an important and strong resource with robots on the board, especially because everybody was grabbing up that silicon quickly. Everybody was valuing picking up those rare tiles on the map. That just increased power costs. I mean, this aluminum mine in particular, look at it. It's costing like a whole power to operate this thing right now. I think it's turned... No, it's still active. Might have been turned off for a while, but... Oh, it's just ridiculous. It's all just a bit ridiculous. I think GameSlayer could have done well moving forward. I would have liked to see him move into Superconductor, move into some solar panels pretty quickly this game. There was enough silicon on the board that was available because everybody had taken it so quickly. But at this point, 74,000 to 500,000. Blues is going to clean this up with just another launch or two very easily. Even just on the back of all this ridiculously priced carbon, I think Blues is going to be okay. GameSlayer just kind of extending things a little bit. Buying into Pop Shoe Socks. Unfortunately, that's just not going to do a whole lot. It does increase his price, but Blues, he knows what's up. He's just going to sell out of his own stock so that he can just go ahead and say, no, you're mine. As is the tournament. That's 4 wins. 4 wins on over to Blues. Just so dominant in FFA. That's disgusting.